Guilty hearts, promises kept. How Kate Middleton's Wimbledon outing with Charlotte was so much more than just a day at the tennis. There are moments in royal life that look, on the surface, delightfully simple. A mother and daughter sharing giggles in the royal box at Wimbledon, clapping politely, whispering excited comments about volleys and foot faults. But peel back the shiny veneer of that perfect family snapshot, and you might find something deeper: guilt, fragile promises, even unspoken fears about time running out. Last year, spectators at Centre Court were treated to precisely such a moment: a radiant Princess Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge, arriving with her young daughter, Princess Charlotte, to watch the Wimbledon finals. The cameras flashed, the crowd swooned, and for a while, it seemed the only story was cute mother-daughter bonding. But as insiders and longtime royal watchers knew, that day was loaded with far more meaning. Because for Kate, this wasn't just another day at the tennis. It was a promise long held, nearly broken, that she simply had to keep. And it came with a bittersweet undertone, tinged by the emotional bruises of her recent health battles. The weight of a mother's promise. Let's start with what we all saw. Charlotte, dressed with youthful poise in her blue floral frock, eyes wide with excitement, taking her first careful steps into the sacred royal territory of the Wimbledon Royal Box. Beside her, Kate beamed with the kind of bright, slightly anxious energy only a mother can project when trying to make a special day absolutely perfect. But behind that glow was a story stretching back months, one filled with tender guilt. Royal biographer Ingrid Seward revealed that Kate had once promised her daughter she'd take her to the Wimbledon finals as a sort of someday treat. It was an idle vow at first, an offhand bit of motherly enthusiasm shared over breakfast cereal or bedtime snuggles. But promises have a strange way of sticking in children's hearts. Especially when those children grow up in the glaring spotlight of Windsor expectations, where every private family dream risks becoming tomorrow's front-page spectacle. Then, as we now know all too painfully, life got complicated. Kate's cancer diagnosis turned everything upside down. The treatments, the exhaustion, the days spent simply trying to muster enough energy to face her children with a smile, they left little room for grand outings or carefree fun. Somewhere in that swirl of hospital visits and hushed family briefings, Kate's promise to Charlotte must have haunted her. Seward put it simply: Kate felt guilty. Guilty that she hadn't been as present as she wished. Guilty that she couldn't shield her children from the anxious whispers that inevitably swirl through palace corridors when a future queen's health is under threat. Guilty that Charlotte, bright and eager, might silently carry that disappointment. So when Wimbledon season rolled around, Kate was determined. She would keep her word. She would show her daughter that even the hardest chapters can't erase small joys. And maybe, just maybe, reassure the world watching that her spirit and the family's unity remained unbroken. A promise fulfilled under royal eyes. If you've ever wondered how much the British press adores its monarchy, look no further than Wimbledon Fortnight. The tournament isn't just about thundering serves or nerve-wracking tiebreaks, it's a ritual parade of aristocratic social signals. Who's in the royal box? Who's conspicuously missing? Who do the cameras linger on for just a little too long? So Charlotte's debut was more than a mother-daughter outing, it was a generational statement. Kate, a lifelong tennis fan and patron of the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club since 2016, had long been a fixture at Wimbledon. Her graceful arrival each year felt as inevitable as strawberries and cream. But bringing Charlotte, that was new. It suggested a gentle but deliberate easing of her daughter into the swirling world of royal patronages and public scrutiny. Body language expert Judy James noted how Charlotte still mirrored her mother closely. The way she adjusted her posture, tucked her hands, or turned to share a comment. Even her small, delighted half-smiles seemed to echo Kate's. It was adorable, sure, but it also hinted at a child still taking emotional cues from the person she trusts most. There was one telling moment when Kate placed a subtle hand on Charlotte's back, guiding her forward to greet officials. Not a shove, not a demand, just a soft nudge, saying, "It's your turn now." Charlotte handled it with composure far beyond her years, offering sweet curtsies and shy eye contact. Watching them, it was hard not to feel both charmed and strangely protective. Because beneath every royal debut is the unspoken question: what weight will this child eventually have to bear? Guilt, exhaustion, and quiet determination. Sources close to Kensington Palace whispered that Kate's health struggles made this outing all the more poignant. Her cancer treatment had left her drained, her schedule carefully trimmed to preserve energy. There were days when simply getting out of bed demanded iron resolve. Days when even whispering bedtime stories took monumental effort. Yet here she was, sitting upright in the world's most scrutinized VIP box, waving to fans, laughing politely with dignitaries. All to give Charlotte this day. One court insider remarked that Kate seemed absolutely determined to fulfill her promise, even if it meant pushing her own comfort to the edge. Watching her clap enthusiastically, beam at Charlotte's reactions, and lean in close for hushed little jokes, it was clear this wasn't just for the cameras. It was a gift to her daughter, and maybe also to herself, a brief return to the normal pleasures of motherhood, stolen back from the shadow of illness. Meanwhile, Charlotte's joy was impossible to fake. Eyes darting eagerly across the court, small hands clapping in delight, she practically hummed with excitement. And whenever she glanced at her mother, the reassurance was instant. This was their moment, carved out from the relentless duties of palace life. The other royals and the careful optics of the box. Of course, Wimbledon's royal box didn't belong only to them that day. Just a few seats over, Sarah Ferguson made headlines of her own, arriving arm-in-arm with Princess Beatrice. It was the first time Fergie had sat there in nearly 3 decades. Her reappearance, following years of semi-exile due to long-ago scandals and more recent discomfort over Prince Andrew's disgrace, was a story in itself. And there was Lady Gabriella Kingston, smiling with philanthropist Robert Denning, plus a swirl of celebrities, newly knighted Sir David Beckham, Hollywood's Jessica Alba with daughter Honor, even Molly King from Radio 1 snuggled close to England cricket star Stuart Broad. Together, they formed a living tableau of Britain's unique cocktail of aristocracy, star power, and sporting obsession. Yet all eyes, eventually, returned to Kate and Charlotte. Because amid the glamour and paparazzi flashbulbs, nothing resonates quite like a mother and daughter trying earnestly, awkwardly, beautifully to hold on to normalcy. The media's sharp claws and the weight of future expectation. If this all sounds idyllic, remember, royal innocence rarely survives long. Judy James noted that Charlotte still seemed to watch Kate like a hawk, subtly syncing her gestures. But how long can that wide-eyed trust last in a world where every twitch becomes headline fodder? Charlotte's growing presence hints at what's coming. The press will one day dissect her outfits, her posture, her rumored crushes, her academic results. Already, articles speculate on how she's being groomed for the spotlight, if she might take on more official duties even sooner than George. One slip, one awkward laugh, one moment of teenage rebellion, and the tabloids will pounce. So watching Kate ensure this promise was kept, even under the cloud of personal health battles, wasn't just touching. It was also strategic. A carefully planted memory for Charlotte that public life can hold sweetness and small triumphs. That it isn't only about duty and scrutiny. What we didn't see, the emotional math of a promise. Maybe that's why insiders talk about guilt. Kate reportedly carried deep regret over the time treatment stole from her children, not just Charlotte, but George and Louis too. She's spoken before, in quieter moments, about the agony of missing simple milestones, school pickups, inside jokes at the dinner table, silly squabbles over board games. This Wimbledon trip was more than ticking a royal calendar box. It was a mother's attempt to make things right, to reassure a daughter that despite the frightening hush of hospital corridors and the endless adult conversations Charlotte was told to leave the room for, some promises still hold. And they matter. That's why Kate's beaming face at centre court wasn't just for the cameras. It was for Charlotte. A whispered vow that even in the middle of the storm, they could find joy together. So where does this leave the House of Windsor? It leaves them, perhaps, a little stronger. Because the monarchy isn't just built on crowns and scepters. It rests on a fragile network of personal ties, private wounds, and small acts of redemption. Moments like these, when guilt gets transformed into grace under a blue Wimbledon sky, keep the public and maybe the royals themselves believing. Charlotte has plenty of years ahead where the pressure will mount. But for now, she'll carry this day with her. The day her mother kept a promise, despite everything. The day duty and delight managed to exist side by side. And maybe, decades from now, when it's Charlotte's turn to shepherd a new little princess into the royal box, she'll remember exactly how it felt to be guided by a gentle hand at her back. What do you think? Was Kate right to push herself to fulfill this promise despite her health? Or should she have waited until she felt stronger? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoy peeking behind the palace curtains for these bittersweet human stories, give us a like, hit subscribe, and ring that bell. Because the next royal revelation might be just around the corner, and trust us, you won't want to miss it.